there, I'm Jenna.
And I'm Steve.
Welcome back to another Field Trip Friday. Where are we today, Steve?
We're here at Ken Browning's farm, and so he's a local farmer here in Durham. And we're going to meet some of his cattle.
I am so excited. I think we're also going to learn about how cattle farmers and farmers in general work with the Durham Soil and Water Conservation Department to make sure that their farm is following all the right rules to make sure they're protecting and saving water and soil.
Absolutely. We're going to meet Emily Bateman. She's going to help us understand the role of Durham Soil and Water Conservation District in that kind of relationship. I'm super excited to tell that story.
I'm super excited to meet some cows.
I know, right?
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Hi, Ken. Hi, Emily. How's it going? Thank you so much for having us here today. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about what y'all do.
Sure. So my name's Emily Bateman, and I work for Durham County Soil and Water Conservation District. And so what I do is I am a natural resource conservationist, which is a super exciting job. I mostly work outside in the agricultural field. And what I do is I go around and I talk to the farmers of Durham County, and I help them with all their resource concerns. So mostly we look at water quality and water quantity, and how can we help our producer get more water for their farm? How can we help them get too much water off their farm? And how can we help them keep their water clean?
Cool.
So we do different best management practices that just, help the farmer keep their resources working for them, because without resources, they wouldn't be able to do their job.
Absolutely.
Cool. And what about you, Ken?
Well, I just live here and kind of take care of the farm. My son picked it out, more or less, and we've been raising some cattle for the last 5 years, probably 4 years.
Cool.
That's awesome.
I'm excited to take a look around. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having us today.
Yeah, let's go.
Awesome. Well, so I would love to learn a little bit more about what techniques or what kind of methods you use here on the land to conserve soil and water. So what are some of the ways you do that here on this land?
Okay, so since this is a cattle operation in a pasture setting, we use a handful of different practices. A lot of the times our pastures are going to be more in a rolling landscape, so we're going to see a lot of water kind of just flowing as it rains. It's going to run off the barns and flow down over the landscape. And so the number one best thing to do in order to slow the runoff and make sure that the water infiltrates into the soil and really gets down into the ground is to have grass. So what we do is we like to come out and walk the pastures and look and see how thick their grass is, what the variety of grasses are and other plants that are happening. Different grasses and different plants all have different root lengths, and that helps break up the soil from compaction, especially in a cattle operation. These cows can weigh over 1,000 pounds, and so all that weight on the soil can just pack it right down like a brick. And so these roots kind of just help break up the soil so the water can go into the ground.
I have a question for you, Ken. How do you make sure that the cattle don't pack down the same amount of land over time?
We move both groups every day, so they don't get very long on it. They don't get to eat the grass very short, which is very helpful for both the cattle and the grass. And just by moving them, sometimes twice a day, but every day, we'll move them to a new spot. And the spot that we moved them from may not get grazed again for several weeks, so it has a chance to kind of rest and regrow.
So maybe Ken, you can tell us a little bit about the kind of importance of the seasonal changes and the way just your whole system works.
Well, because we are a grass-fed system, The only thing they get that's not grass is hay, which is dried grass. So it's not grain fit. They're not grain fed at all. They're not supplemented in any way other than minerals, free choice minerals. And they don't eat a lot of that, which is usually a good indicator that you've got a lot of natural minerals in the food that they're eating. They know how much they need, so they'll eat based on what their needs are. As far as the types of grasses, this is a fairly diverse pasture, which most of them are, and I would say that the biggest majority of this pasture is, or was, cool season grass. It was there was a seed bank of years of probably fescue seed being deposited in the soil, so it's going to come back.
Yeah. And fescue are these kind of big patches that we're seeing here?
Yeah, a lot of those are. Now, I have overseeded with a different type, more friendly fescue and orchard grass in here. And there's a lot of other grasses that were here in the seed bank. There's bluegrass in it, there's yamagrass in it. There's a lot of different diversity throughout this pasture.
So this is a bit of a left turn, but what are some of the other animals that you see supported kind of by this ecosystem? So of course there's you and your cows.
Yeah.
What other and you just say you have such a rich environment here. You've got all these trees, you've got this awesome pasture land. What other kind of species do you see around?
Well, as far as this, the clover really does a great job of developing nice sized deer. You know, I'm not a hunter, but you have a fairly large deer population, and then the other that are beneficiaries of it, you've got rabbits, squirrels, red fox, gray fox, possums, raccoons, skunks, coyotes. So it's pretty in the mammal, just in the mammal.
Absolutely.
The bird population is really diverse and large.
A lot of our farmers and our farmlands in Durham County are on kind of protected waters. They're in the Falls Lake watershed. They're flowing into Lake Michi, and so we really want to protect the water that goes into these two lakes because that's where we get our drinking water from. And so whatever comes from this land and goes into the stream, that's what we're drinking.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So we really encourage all of our producers to have a riparian buffer along their streams. And so we'll come out and we'll walk the streams and we'll kind of do an assessment and tell them what type of stream.
What does riparian mean?
Yeah.
Riparian is the area around a stream.
Nice.
Where the plants are. And what they do is it's kind of like a bubble wrap around the stream. It just protects the stream from erosion and any other unwanted pollutants flowing into the water. All right, so we have walked down here to this stream, and this stream flows into a little creek called Rocky Branch Creek, which flows into the Eno, and that directly flows into Falls Lake, which is where the city of Raleigh and most of Wake County gets its drinking water. And so I just wanted to show you the riparian buffer. So what a riparian buffer is it's just the forest that protects the stream. And so the reason that this is so important is back to what I was saying earlier. Roots are the number one protector of soil. So as you see here, there is the stream. It picks up flow from the street, the houses. And as it rains, it really gets a lot of force. But you see, especially on this tree, where there's roots, it's holding the soil. Where there's no roots, the soil kind of washes away. And so it's really important to protect this. And this is what is protecting our drinking water. And Ken is an amazing farmer who went ahead and took the initiative to make sure that his animals don't come down here to use this as a drinking supply. If they were here, they would come, and like I said, they're over 1,000 pounds, so they'll start kind of hoofing away and chipping away at this stream bank. And then all this soil just washes into our drinking water.
Hi y'all! We're here in Earth Moves at the museum. We want to demonstrate a concept called erosion.
Erosion is something really important to consider when we're talking about soil and water conservation. So let's take a closer look. Here we are at our stream table, and you can already see that there's a lot of water. I'm going to run my finger through the middle of our mound. And there's already a lot of stuff happening right now.
Yeah, look at all that happening. You can already see so much of that sediment is being carried by the water. And that's basically the heart of erosion. That's what we're talking about. There's other ways that erosion can happen. It's not just water. But here you can see the water is flowing past all that sand. And as it does that, it carries some of it along with it.
Yeah, and you can see that a lot of the mound that we built here is already breaking off just because the water has been rushing by it. So I think now what we're going to do, Steve, is build this mound back up and then use some of our materials.
Yeah, and we'll set up an experimental design where we can have kind of a control without vegetation, and then we'll put an experimental setup.
So we tried our little experiment here with one side without vegetation and one side with vegetation, and something really cool happened. We saw when the water began to run in this area here, a lot of sand was cut under this bank and this bank, but it eventually stopped here because it was really neat. The vegetation, these plastic plants, were holding this sand together, while this sand over here didn't have anything held together, and this bank began to collapse. And it was so cool because these are just plastic plants, and they were doing a really great job at holding the sand together. But real plants have roots and root systems that kind of go farther down and farther out, and they also interact with other root systems too, so they have a better time. Yes, they link together in a better time, kind of holding all of the soil and stuff together.
Absolutely. It was so awesome. I cut this one right close to these plants too, and so it only went like this far into this bank, and it's gone like 4 times further into this bank over here. I just thought that was even cooler than I expected. My hypothesis was that we would get a result kind of like that erosion would propagate that way, but it happened even more dramatically than I expected. Oh, so cool.
So cool. And hopefully this helps you understand how vegetation and other plants can help environments that a lot of water runs over it.
And cool. So what do we have going on here?
So unfortunately, no matter how great of a farmer you are, occasionally you get a little bit of erosion. And like I said, pasture land tends to be really rolling. And so with that, we get a lot of force and velocity of water coming down. And it finds the lowest spot. And so there's a draw here, and it's kind of formed this gully, which looks a bit like a stream coming down, but it's not really wanted. So what Ken has done is he's put these hay bales out, and that's to help slow down the water flow and break it up. And then he seeded it out to attempt to grow some more grass in this area. As we said earlier, grass is the best way to slow down water. If you saw back in the pasture, the grass tufts get really big, and it's really hard to have water flow through that quickly. So it's just a little bit of erosion. It goes out, it comes kind of to like this little flat area, and then it, the gully goes away. So if this doesn't work, he'll probably just kind of come and flatten it out a little bit, and then use a little bit of matting with the seeding, and we'll call it a grass waterway at that time.
So earlier, when in our walk, you were mentioning how important it is to kind of start literally from the ground up for particularly cattle producers. They really start with grass, right?
Yeah. So for all of our livestock producers, when we do classes for them, we tell them that they are not livestock producers. They're not cattlemen. They're not sheepmen. What they are is they're grassmen. Their job is to grow grass. So without good grass and good pasture, they're not going to have good livestock and healthy livestock. So the number one thing is to think about, how can I grow good grass?
Yeah.
Emily, Ken, I cannot thank you enough for hanging out with us today. It was so fun, and I learned so much.
Yeah, we learned so much. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. Thank you for sharing your connection to the land. This has been so Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out. It was great talking with you, and hopefully the students might have an interest in soil and water conservation or agriculture as a career in the future.
Absolutely. We hope so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the importance of the soil and water is really been helpful in this, and is available to really anyone that wants to take advantage of it. And for me, I knew a lot of it from growing up involved in it, but sometimes just hearing it again or hearing what's changed since then,
Yeah.
new things, new programs.
That's awesome.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you for sharing your relationship as well. This has been really great.
Yeah.
Thanks. We'll see you next time, friends.
Bye.
Bye.